I'm Kate.
I'm Elle.
We are down to Fae, and we're continuing our Throne of Glass deep dive today with Empire of Storms, chapters 6 through 10, and Tower of Dawn, chapters 2 and 3. And I know the 2 Tower of Dawn chapters are in the middle of the Empire of Storms chapters with a tandem read, but just so we're not switching back and forth constantly, we're going to talk about Empire of Storms first, and then get into Tower of Dawn. But first, we need to talk about Girls' Night Out back because last night we went to Thunder from Down Under in Nashville. It was for a friend's birthday, but they have a residency here now, which is kind of wild.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would have been more impressed if we had not gone to Magic Mike before that, because we went to Magic Mike in Vegas, and it is like high production value, obviously trained dancers, very attractive. Just like very well done. If you're ever in Vegas, 10 out of 10 recommend. And don't get me wrong, Thunder from Down Under was fun. This is going to sound terrible. It's kind of like if you ordered Magic Mike on Temu, that's what it was. And maybe that's just for the Nashville version. Like that would kind of track for the Nashville version. I can't speak for like what the Vegas show is like.
Yeah, I mean, respectfully, we had fun, but
it was a fun night.
More was expected.
Well, there were names. So just like a couple of things that are sticking out in my mind. When a guy would be dancing, there would be huge letters across the screen with their names. But the first guy was Tim. So he's dancing. And this is the same guy who tried to sing Chris Stapleton.
Oh, right.
Which was an interesting...
he was hot.
He was very attractive. He was kind of like dirty hot. He had a
lot
of tattoos.
Covered in tattoos.
But it would just be like, Tim! And then it would show like some graphics that looked like I made them on Canva free tier.
Oh, no.
And then they weren't really dancers. And I don't think it's marketed as a dancing show. So that's on us. Well, they're just kind of like buff guys that you can see their little brains turning, being like 5, 6, 7, 8. Like they're trying to remember.
Well, people, I mean, like I say, people are not perfect. You know, sometimes you miss a step, but it's like some of the steps were so like,
they were very
thought
basic.
out what they were supposed to do that like it didn't flow.
You could see the effort.
It wasn't sexy.
It wasn't as sexy.
It wasn't the best choreography I've ever seen.
Well, and the shoes were like Dr. Scholl's black sneakers.
Oh, no.
And like I guarantee if the music had stopped at any point, it would have sounded like a high school basketball game just with the squeaks. And there's no table, so you're holding your drink. And then whenever a dancer like vaults into the crowd, which we're just on like folding chairs, basically, that if they're like dancing behind you, you have no idea what's going on back there. You're just looking at an empty stage because it's a lot like the movie Magic Mike, actually, where they do like the group dances and then they all have their own moment and their own thing that they come out to do.
In their defense, I think if the venue in Nashville had been set up a little differently, they probably would have jumped on the tables like in front of us and done a little more. Like it was set up very much like an auditorium, you know, so you're just facing the stage. That's it. But yeah, whenever they left the stage, they didn't have anything else going on.
So you're just sitting there. Well, and then the people who were brought on stage, they would put them in this like, you know, folding chair and they would kind of like kiss their cheek or something and then go off and dance.
They weren't dancing. Yeah.
Elsewhere.
Like,
and the person's just sitting there. Like they didn't dance on the women in the chair, really. They didn't pick anyone up. Like it was just very different from Magic Mike.
Well, it's like they had the idea and they would get started, but then they would go dance on the stage near you and it wasn't even necessarily like a sexy dance.
And the person's just
like,
sitting there.
Why am I sitting here for this?
Well, and they kept saying during the show, they were like, don't take your phones out because at the end of the show, everyone gets a photo with the guys. And we're like, oh my God, great. So when it's over, you get in line. It's chaotic. There's no like line up over here or whatever. You just like start running to the stage. And then you get to the front and they're like, the screen's going to ask you a question. They were literally, they didn't say anything like the whole time, which I understand, like it's a business. But they didn't say anything. They were just like, everyone gets a photo at the end. And then they were like, tap your card here. And we were like, wait, what?
And considering, I mean, again, I hate to be disrespectful because I think they were doing their best.
Oh, I would have fucked any of them.
They were hot. It was expensive for the ticket.
It was expensive.
The seats weren't great. And the show I was expecting for what I paid is not quite what you got. And then after all that, you want me to pay extra to get a picture with you?
Yeah.
Like Magic Mike, we were able to video the whole time. And I feel bad to keep comparing it to Magic Mike.
Well, Magic Mike was just like an experience.
It was so immersive. Yeah.
Yes.
So we had a good time. There was still plenty of yelling and catcalling, but it just wasn't quite the same. So like,
and I did get a little bit of attention.
Oh yeah, Kate was sitting on the end, so like multiple guys would walk by and like touch her face, or like they liked Kate.
One like grabbed my chin and tilted it up, and I was like, oh my god, what are we? And it was the dirty hot one. So what I love about us is anytime we're reading a series or in a situation like that, we always choose like our people so that we don't have to compete on any level. So it's like if we're reading Black Dagger, you have Z, I have V. If we're reading Lords of the Underworld, I have the diseased one. I don't even remember which one you have. But we
probably Death.
We like have our separate things. And last night, as soon as the guys came out, I was like, okay, the one that looks like he has a really bad credit score, that's mine. And you're like, the pretty one's mine. And I was
the tall pretty boy, that one's mine.
It was really fun. And they definitely catered to the Bachelorette crowd. So a lot of country music, which again, like that works for the people who were there. So if you're coming to Nashville with a group of girls, it's worth going for the plot. Just don't expect like a Magic Mike level. And I've never been to Chippendales. Like I've never been to Thunder from Down Under in Vegas.
Right.
So maybe they're still kind of like finding their groove.
Especially if they're newer to Nashville. There may be some kinks that they're working out. So like we definitely had fun.
Yes.
It's just, I don't want to say you should definitely do it. And then you're like, wow, thanks guys. But it is fun. It just may not be as much what you may be expecting. So you just have to go into it knowing what you're going to get, if that makes sense.
I would say it's more of a strip show than dancing. But they didn't even take everything off. Their little panties were tacky. Every single number ended with them ripping their pants away.
And I didn't hate that.
I didn't hate it. There was one guy who was probably the worst dancer. But then when he laid on the ground,
that was sexy.
I was like, oh.
The way his abs were flexing, I was like, this is what I needed from you. That mine? Was that the one that I picked that was mine anyway?
Yeah, that was yours.
It helped.
So I was like, even if he wanted me, I would have been like, dibs is dibs.
Sorry about that.
Nothing could happen between us.
Them's the rules.
And then next week, we are going to Palm Springs, if anyone has recommendations. But it also means an everything shower. And to be honest, my bush is so big right now. It's been accused of 9/11. Like I have to do, like, sometimes when I take an everything shower, I feel like I'm going to pass out. There's too much.
A lot of work goes into it.
I need to like spread it out, but I always wait until the last second and it's like everything.
You know, we're your girlfriends. If you don't want to, we support you, whatever you want to do.
Well, we have a pool. I always have to go to Stagecoach at Palm Springs. This year I was like, well, I don't go like I'm not.
Oh, I'm joking. It's the way you were like, I have to go. And I was like, oh, okay.
And so this year, like all my friends are going with me. We've got this really nice Airbnb. And also, I do not want this opportunity to celebrate an anniversary to pass.
Okay.
Facebook told me via a picture that 14 years ago today, you went home with a guy to his dorm.
Why? What is on Facebook?
Because we posted a picture with this guy. I don't know why. Like I used to
I forgot about
upload
that.
50 photos, like just called Night Out, and it was from the exact same night.
With different characters.
The night that you fell down the stairs.
Or I left my necklace behind.
Yeah, why'd you have to take your necklace off?
My sister listens to this podcast. So you guys will never know.
Yeah. Yeah, I just needed to acknowledge that anniversary.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
She was like, hold on, there's going to be a surprise mixed in here. It's the anniversary of a really important night. I should have brought
like party hats. I should have, you know what? I should find that guy and like have him in.
That also means it's the same night that you went home with somebody and had to save me in a cab.
Yeah.
You had to come to the dorm room to rescue me.
And that's when you fell down the stairs. And the taxi driver and I were like, oh.
It was just a night of chaos for everybody.
Oh, man. So, yeah.
I don't have a good segue from that to
Darrow.
Our story, but I guess let's get into it.
Getting back into the tandem read, which has been, honestly, so far, I've been enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because we had not done the tandem read before, but the timelines, like it makes sense the way people do it.
I'm
Whoever
in
split this up because the timeline
Yeah.
is exactly the same.
I'm enjoying it a lot more because I don't remember the last time I read Tower of Dawn. I may have only read it once. I don't even know. So, like, there's things I've forgotten, but
Mhm.
the layout, the way things are falling, I'm like, "Okay, I'm paying more attention because I
Yeah.
get breaks from it. It's not just Tower of Dawn." Well, last week we ended with Darrow delivering a letter signed by the Lords of Terrasen saying that they do not recognize Aelin as the Queen of Terrasen. Until it's decided otherwise, she is a princess by blood, but not a queen.
More good news, the witches and their wyverns are on their way to Rifthold, so Aelin reluctantly sent Rowan to save Dorian, then take him to Skulls Bay.
Dorian in his little tower. We pick up with baby girl in his tower.
Under the best circumstances, what Dorian is going through would be overwhelming. Unresolved trauma, like what happened to Sorsha, PTSD of being possessed by the Vogue Prince, everything he witnessed during that time, which we haven't even heard about yet, the patricide, everything that his father revealed before he killed him. And Dorian was the heir. Like, so in theory, he's been training his whole life. And he has, like, especially in Tower of Dawn, there are a couple times Chaol's like, man, I wish I had been paying attention when Dorian was learning how to speak all these languages. So,
Mhm.
like, Dorian has been training, but he's also been running from his title.
Yeah.
So he went from kind of wanting nothing to do with it to here's a crown, here's some paperwork. It's an immediate, you're in war. Like you
Mhm.
start off as king in the middle of a war. So like immediate crisis, but also all this unprocessed pain.
Well, the worst is that it's basically a civil war.
Yeah.
It's internal and you are unprepared. You don't even have an army here. He's calling the armies back, but that doesn't mean they're all coming his way. They might be swerving to
To Parrington
yeah, I was
side.
about to say Rifthold, that's where he is. They might be swerving to go to Morath, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So he's kind of a sitting duck. It's just a lot of stress, a lot to try to focus on, like, where do I even get started with all of
Well, I
this?
have wondered, did they not see this coming?
I mean,
Like it seems like
probably.
there's not a power vacuum because Dorian is there, but
Mhm.
he's so unguarded and alone. And I mean, Aelin had to go. She had to do like her own quest, and then Chaol had to go to do what he's doing, but it did leave Dorian very open.
It does make you wonder, like, what was the plan? It's not like Aelin could have provided her own troops to help or
Yeah.
anything, but
That could some
still.
of the Bane, but they're I mean, they need to protect Terrasen. I don't know.
Yeah, that wouldn't go over well for Terrasen if the
Yeah.
Bane was trying to help and they're like, but your queen's coming back?"
Yeah.
He just it's a very tough position for him to be in, but there's also the question, am I part Vogue? And I thought it was interesting in this chapter that he mentions that his father, or I guess the demon, reproduced with his mother twice,
Mhm.
because I think we've been a little bit confused on the timeline of when his
Yeah,
father was officially not inhabited, what's the word?
infected.
Infected with the Vogue. We know that he and Parrington opened the tomb when they were young, but it took such a long time to build the towers and, like, stop
Yeah, because it
magic.
only was 10 years ago, so it would have been when Dorian was 10ish, I guess?
But even then, like, just because they were young, that didn't mean that his father wasn't already married.
Mhm.
So, like, was Dorian a baby when they opened the tomb? Did
Yeah,
Dorian
I don't know
exist
how
yet?
old the king is.
Because the king made it sound like he had enough wherewithal to protect Dorian, so it sounded like Dorian already existed
Or was he already possessed and when Dorian was born, it kind of triggered something in him to want to fight
to
back?
help him stand up
Like
to
he
the
saw
Vogue a little
baby
bit more?
Dorian and he was like, "Uh-oh, this fuck's going to have magic."
I don't know. Like, I don't know. We have some questions about it, but Dorian seems pretty sure that his dad was already possessed
Yeah.
by the time he was born.
Well, and Dorian is leaning into what Chaol would normally do, but can't now, and we'll get into those issues in Tower of Dawn. But he's trying to lose himself in training and exercise. And I mean, he looks great. Like a certain witch notices he's working out later and is like,
Hey.
are his thighs thicker?
Poor Dorian. He's also worried about his butt buddy Chaos, speaking of.
Well, like you said, whose injuries, Chaol's injuries, his father somehow kept from being fatal. So it's also, why was my father able to fight back against the Vogue on some level to stay in there for decades, I'm assuming, when the demon had complete control over Dorian?
Yeah. I mean, Dorian also had a prince. His father had a grunt. So I don't know if that gave.
That's true.
And Dorian's father would have already known about his magic and grown up having magic, so maybe it was easier for him to stand his ground longer, especially if he was already running a kingdom, potentially already had children. Like, maybe it was there was more, not more for him to fight for, but Dorian was in the middle of a great loss.
Yeah.
So he wasn't
He was very
ready for any of that.
vulnerable
Yes.
and like ripe for the prince.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, as confused as we are about the timeline, I think Dorian's also confused of like, okay, have I spent this entire time hating my father when my entire life has been trying to protect me? And I know that it's more complicated than that. Like, we're never going to know exactly when it was the king, when it was the grunt, or whatever was inside of him. There's just like layers to these. There's a lot of questions that he'll never have the answers for.
There's just so much he has to sort through because he still
Or
has,
he thinks he'll never have the answers for.
Yeah, all that trauma he hasn't had a chance to sort through, but everything has been laid in his lap, and now there's even more questions now that, he had a brief moment with his father without the Vogue. Even with all of his physical training, there's no one to train his raw dog magic either.
Well, and later Rowan is like, did Aelin not train you?
I'm
And
like, when
they
would
wouldn't
that
have
have
had
been?
time.
Yeah, but like the time from Aelin coming back from Wendland was very short.
Yeah.
And Dorian was already in a collar. So like, when would Aelin have talked to him about his training his magic?
I guess in those 3 days, like before they left the castle.
But she hadn't even trained her magic.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I appreciate the thought behind it, but like, when? What?
Dorian hears what he thinks is thunder, and then a legion of thick, yellow-legged bitches and wyverns blot out the sunset because they are rolling into Rifthold the way that we rolled into Thunder from Down Under, feral.
Yep.
That's how it started, at least.
Yeah, we came in hot. And it was there were still some sexy times that just,
They followed us on Instagram, so like, I'm assuming one of them wants to date us.
Well, I'm leaning more towards Kate based on how much attention she got.
He did touch my chin and lip. I mean, that was like, we had a moment.
Thank you for the follow, because, did we even talk about how hot the MC was?
Yeah, he was the best part of the show. The MC was like
God.
the Matthew McConaughey of the show. He was very cute. He kind of looked like a budget Aaron Taylor Johnson in a good way. Like, he looked like him.
He was hot.
And he was like the best dancer.
Well, he was in a button-down shirt most of it. And then, I don't remember if it was the very last dance, but like all of a sudden he came out dancing, shirt off,
people kept being
hat
like,
backwards.
Take it
I was
off.
like, who are you?
People were yelling at him to dance. And he was like, no, you guys don't want that. You guys don't want that. So you're
we
like, oh,
do.
he's just the MC. But then at the very end, he came out and danced. And it was like, probably the best part of the show.
Yeah, so like earlier I might have claimed the pretty boy, and I'll keep him, but I also want to claim daddy because he was.
There's this one move that Channing Tatum does a lot in the movie where he kind of like slides, but his knees are parted, and he does like he uses his fist to pound in time with like thrusting, and I was like, fuck yeah.
But like the other one we were talking about a few minutes ago that was really sexy. He was on his back with his legs spread, and like it's the way he was rolling his hips.
Yes.
And he was shirtless.
You could mentally go exactly like where they wanted your mind to go.
It was watching the muscles flex. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm here for this part. So we showed up feral. We had some expectations. And it was still a lot of fun.
It was.
Manon and her 13 have been flying without stopping, but Iskra and her legion still beat them to it.
And they are going straight for baby girl, who's being kept in this tower by these poor young guards who probably only got the job because everyone else has either been killed or they're possessed by Vogue. And they're just kind of like, because they disappear later. Like, I feel like, I know that they're fighting. Like, there's a lot of fighting going on in the castle, but I don't think you're supposed to leave the king unguarded.
Everybody's just very new to this. Like, they're
it's
trying
like the first
very
day,
hard.
and this is what you're being attacked by a legion of witches.
Well, it's like like even if they've had some training, like there's nobody seasoned, it sounds like, that's there to like keep them grounded during a battle.
There's no Brullo.
No.
R.I.P. Brullo.
Dorian watches the wyverns unleash hell on his city, on his people. He rallies his magic and sends blasts of ice and wind towards the witches that are trying to bring down the glass wall, shredding right through them.
And the guards are like, that's unexpected.
Yeah.
If you have no idea that your king has magic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess he hasn't really made a display with it yet. And also it's like very violent. So I think they're just like, Whoa.
Well, everyone has been assuming that it was Aelin that brought down the castle, Aelin that killed the king,
True.
Aelin that caused first, I guess, the landslide of glass and then stopped it.
True.
So how would you know?
But even then, like, even if because Dorian's magic shows itself in so many unique ways, you may have seen one thing and had no idea this was also him.
Mhm.
Dorian sends another whip of magic, and more wyverns and witches fall to the ground, coated with ice so thick that they shatter when they hit the stone,
That's
which is
such a cool
wild.
visual. It
Yeah.
reminds me of something. I can't think of what it is.
I don't know, but I can definitely imagine they talk about something like that in the Fever series too. And I don't know
Okay.
if you have a visual from
Like
that where she has like, yeah,
hoarfrost.
it's hoarfrost.
Okay. And that's when the other attack hits from behind, but unfortunately, it's not the hit from behind that we were hoping for.
Shucks.
A solidly built witch and her wyvern, they're literally in his room. Like they've torn a hole in the side of the baby girl tower, and they're in the room. But I think Dorian calling me solidly built would be my 13th reason. That would be, I wouldn't come back from that because there are several times that he describes these witches as just like thick.
Thick. Thanks.
Thanks. We
Meanwhile,
blotted out the sun. Thanks.
Dorian tries to rally his magic, but he learns the lesson Aelin did that day at Mistward, keeping the bonfires lit. Too much, too fast, too uncontrolled.
Dorian has one wyvern literally in his room thanks to the giant hole it made. 6 others are coming for him from where Aelin's glass wall was, but is now collapsed. He sends ice into the eyes of the wyvern, whose tail slams into his side and throws him into a wall. So he would probably be dead without his
Oh my
magic
god!
because it kind of cocooned him.
Yeah, for several reasons. Yeah, like you said, the magic protected him from his bones breaking, but even just the venom. This
Mm-hmm.
cut isn't that deep, but the wyvern's tail's coated in venom, and I forgot about the venom for a second because Abraxos didn't have venom. I think they took it from him as
Oh,
a
yeah,
bait
because
beast.
he has iron, like he's been kind of rebuilt.
Yeah, so like I just we haven't talked about it recently, and I had a moment reading that. And I was like, oh shit, the venom! I forgot. Lucky for Dorian, his magic slowly heals him, but it's still going slowly as he's watching the witch draw her sword.
In one moment, she's swinging her thick legs over the saddle, and the next, her head is gone. Then a much smaller but very well dressed wyvern slams into the tower,
Oh, speaking of our little baby, well dressed. Dorian is crawling for the door when Manon Blackbeak tells him to get up.
which parallels like Kale and Selena at the final duel in book 1. He tells her to get up when she's like crawling for the chalk line.
Hmm.
And that was like actually looking back on it, that was such a sweet moment. I know we have our things with Kale, but that, and then when Aelin was fighting the Vogue at Mistward, and the younger version of herself told her to get up. And then we're going to hear it again, kind of in a funnier situation in another book later. So it's like a recurring, I don't know if you call it a theme, but it happens several times.
Yeah, it's the way you can continue to draw the parallels. After noticing Dorian's tick thighs and
Yeah,
his
tick,
height,
not thick, tick.
she's like, tick, hello. Manon pulls him up, and once they're face to face, Dorian hits her with a hello, witchling.
Possessed, dying, the king of Rishold is never going to miss out on an opportunity to flirt. And she purrs back, hello, princeling. And Abraxas is like, Mom, gross. And I've seen people, there was this Reddit thread that was talking about that first meeting in Oakwald Forest when he finally is himself after however long, and he flirts like that's when we first hear hello, witchling.
Hmm.
And people were like, oh, he just wanted to goad Manon into killing him. It wasn't actually flirting, but I think it was both. Like he's still, because he does it again.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm trying to think back to that scene specifically. He does kind of smile at her when he says it, which is flirting, but also a little bit taunting because
Mm-hmm.
Manon expects people to be afraid of her. So
Yeah.
he's just living on the edge. It's
Well, and
hard to
that's part
say.
of the charm of Dorian for
Hmm.
Manon is he's not afraid of her. And I
Yeah.
think part of I don't want to like psychoanalyze it too early on, but part of what Dorian loves about Manon, I have to imagine, is not sturdy. I need to think of a better word, but like she's going to be a lot harder to kill than someone like Sorsha, you know?
Yeah.
Like
She's
he
not
doesn't want to have to
breakable.
fall in love and then lose someone like he did again. So,
There's a bit of an edge of danger.
yeah.
And it's a strength.
Mhm.
She's very strong. She's
Yeah.
unruffled, which I'm sure if you've been through something traumatic, you can relax a little bit, that it would be much harder to you don't have to worry as much.
Yeah.
Like, not putting my words together well, but yeah, I see what you're saying. Before the other witches and wyverns can reach the tower, wind sends them tumbling into the city.
Dorian asks Manon to fight with them, and she's again surprised that he doesn't seem to be afraid of her. But that's when the yellow leg sentinels bust in through the door and they see Manon with Dorian not fighting, flirting. Luckily, before they can get a DM to Dumois, Rowan and all that pent up sexual energy explodes through the doorway. This guy is up to his eyeballs in cum. He's like, let's fucking go. I don't even care who I'm fighting.
God, even just hearing you say that, I'm like, we could have had some fun scenes in the woods.
Why couldn't they just lead up to it?
You didn't have to have sex. There are so many
There's
other things you could have done.
There's more, like, arguably more fun things.
Yeah, let's blow off some steam. Rowan takes out the yellow legs before they can even turn around, then rips the air from Manon's throat.
Because the last time they saw each other, Astrid shot an arrow at Aelin, and then Rowan jumped in front of it. But Dorian, baby girl, roars, and Rowan instantly releases Manon. And I think that that's kind of sweet that Rowan respects Dorian enough to immediately be like, okay, like this.
Yeah.
This is someone that caused Rowan to almost die. Like, I know it was Astrid, but it's like there's beef there.
Well, and Rowan is there to save Dorian. He's been fighting off witches. He busts through the door, and like Manon, who they've already had beef with, is right in front of Dorian. So Rowan doesn't ask questions. He just likes start throwing out the magic, and that's when he has a moment like, oh, let me reassess.
Let me get some context here. And I think this is the first time that we learn about the yielding, because Manon is thinking about witches not having any magical shields against attacks like what just happened, Rowan ripping the air from her throat. Only when witches are at their most desperate, like their most enraged, can they summon the core of their magic with devastating consequences. But even in this moment, we don't learn what those consequences are. Like, it's kind of building up to a reveal.
Dorian tells Manon to find him when she changes her mind. Then Rowan, going on 2 days without rest, food, or water, pulls baby girl through the halls and toward the queen's quarters.
I guess it is easier to go for 2 days if you're a bird, because then you can just like poop in the air,
Well, you're not really eating, so
that too.
Maybe everything's just lighter.
And there's a secret exit behind a portrait of baby Dorian and his mother. And there is like a little moment where Dorian is like, should I spiral about my mommy? No, like, we don't have time.
She's safe. Let's go on.
I do wonder if Dorian was in any way inspired by the picture of Dorian Gray. Because there is a scene in that book where Dorian is reading Manon Lescaut.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Just the names being pulled from that is
I know that's probably
cool.
nothing, but
it's still like just these little connections. Dorian and Rowan go through the trap door and both hear the screams and shouts of the dying.
So if this were ACOTAR, this would be a sex scene with all those like dead and dying sounds.
Oh, burn.
That is probably my least favorite part of that book.
It proves Dorian's magic includes enhanced hearing. His raw dog magic could really be anything: ice, fire, healing, heightened senses, shape-shifting.
And I love the little like breadcrumbs that Sarah's leaving for us, like shape-shifting. Interesting.
Interesting.
Dorian wants to go help. He can hear like the people are fighting for him. So it is like he does the right thing, but I understand him feeling guilty about it.
Yeah, just wishing you could do more.
But he's more useful to his people if he survives, because the alternative is Parrington immediately moves back in.
Yeah.
They reach the sewers and pass the now sealed off tunnel to Aelin's room and the dried blood of Archer Finn. Remember that? Capital W whore, respectfully. I'm still mad we never got like a little sex scene with him.
There were some opportunities that were missed. But also, Rowan's like, so y'all gave an assassin a room with direct access to your queen's chambers?
Seriously, like that's not even important to the plot, but Rowan's just like, God, what was going on here?
I mean, Aelin had the same thought at some point when she went down there and first discovered the sewer, but like, guys, come on.
They exit through a grate and Dorian lies down in a boat covered by Rowan's cloak. Rowan shifts and flies out, using his magic to push and protect the boat of just like, nothing's going on here, just an empty boat floating. And as they leave, Rowan is in his feelings. He's thinking maybe it's a good thing I didn't fuck Aelin against that tree. Darrow was an asshole, but he was right about me being prince in name only. He has no army. He has no monies outside of Doranel, and those have probably already been distributed to his shitty cousins. So he's like, actually, what do I have to offer? And I mean, we know he has a lot to offer.
Oh, I know, but it's like that's just one of the things with nobility is sometimes to secure their kingdom, they have to forge alliances, and a lot of those are marriage. So it's not an unreasonable thought to
I
have.
just think we shouldn't take the Adian Aelin marriage off the table too early. Let's keep our options open.
Rowan also knows that Aelin would consider marriage to a foreign lord or prince if that's what was best for Terrasen. Even if what's between them isn't just love, this thing between them, the force of it, could devour the world.
That's why he hasn't told her he loves her with his face mouth or his bottom mouth.
Damn it. And like you were saying about Dorian and Aelin a couple of weeks ago, Rowan also has that I deserve this mentality.
He does.
Because he's wondering if having Aelin only to lose her is his punishment for letting his mate Lyria die, for finally letting go of that grief and moving on.
And I don't know what you call that. If it's like a glutton for punishment, like I deserve for bad shit to happen to me. If it's like a masochist.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. It's like a shame spiral all the time. And
it's exhausting.
It's sad. You're like, it's hard to read that for like one of your main characters. Like, come on.
Well, that's what I loved about Caltaine is she is the only one that was like, I did not deserve what happened to me.
Yeah.
Like Rowan isn't being punished for continuing to live. Things aren't happening to Dorian because he didn't protect Sorsha. Aelin is actually being punished, but it's from the Lords, not the universe. You know, like it's not. Nothing is happening to them because of the things that they've done as punishment.
Yeah. But there's the minute something goes wrong, they're in their heads. They're like, yeah, I guess I deserve this. And you're like, come on, guys. Come on, let's move forward. Deep in Oakwald Forest, Elide has been trying to lose whoever is tracking her for 3 days. And in the process, she's managed to become even more lost.
This poor girl. She is literally going in every direction, bless her heart. She's barely stopped to sleep or like scavenge for food or water. Her leg is aching. She can't find the Lord of the North in the sky, which had me thinking, and this is stupid, but this is right after Aelin saw the Lord of the North. What if he's not in the sky because he's like visiting Aelin? Like, I know that that's stupid, but you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
it was like he disappeared from the sky because he was going to tell Aelin, like, you got this, girl.
I hadn't considered the literal he is in the sky or he's in Terrasen.
Yeah, it's like it's just interesting that when Aelin sees him, Elide can't.
Interesting.
But she's also thinking, I'd literally offer the Dark Lord my soul just for a few hours of peace and safety.
Lorcan's like, you rang?
Elide is filling her Stanley when the forest goes quiet. And I don't know if anybody else watched Three Body Problem on Netflix. So it's based on these books that the sequel talks about the dark forest theory. And it's a solution to this paradox, like smart people would understand. Why do we have no evidence of aliens when there's such a high likelihood that they exist? So it says alien civilizations exist throughout the universe, but they're silent because they're paranoid. And like any other intelligent life would be a threat, so everyone is staying hidden. So it's like when everything goes quiet, it doesn't mean that there's nothing out there. It means you should be quiet because there's multiple things you should be scared of. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, because that is something like if you suddenly notice things are quiet, it's usually something
worse
bad
than,
is coming. So everybody pauses. Elide hears howls, not dogs, not wolves, but the howls that she heard in Morath.
And I don't know if we learn this later and I've just forgotten, but how do they know that Elide is alive?
I think they're not willing to risk anything else based on what she's carrying.
Do they know that she has it?
Well, they can't find it. I feel like they searched the rubble and can't find it.
How would they even know where to look for her? Like, I don't know. It's weird.
I guess they're just checking. Like, I don't think they necessarily know. I bet they're being sent out in all directions just in case.
Well, and I keep coming back to this, but how can someone be part witch? Like, how can someone have a drop of witch blood when witches breed with human men, which means the witch part would be passed from mother to daughter? How would that be diluted? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's not like it's not like they're mating with other witches.
Yeah.
So
I mean, maybe there's
either it's always strong or somebody wasn't strong, and that doesn't make sense either.
Well, and I know that there's like later we'll learn about the Kraken side of things, But I thought it was specifically mentioned
Yeah, they
that
mentioned
she
that
was
she has
iron teeth.
yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know why that would matter. It probably doesn't. But it's just something that's always like stuck out to me.
Girl, why you gotta be scientific right now? Because now I'm like
Women in STEM.
thinking way too much about
We need to do
why
one
it
of
would work
those
that way.
when you were in school and you had to do like red hair,
The Punnett
blonde.
squares.
Yes.
Go through all our
Which,
genetics.
not which.
But, like, if the witch blood is always stronger and wins out, then, like, you shouldn't be able to dilute it because
Right.
regardless,
How would you? It would always go.
they always breed with humans.
Yeah.
Or, like, even if they breed with fae, they're still not breeding with other witches, so it shouldn't matter? I don't know. Now
I don't
you've
know.
done that, I don't know.
Yeah.
A lead hears, "Unless you wanna be lunch girl, I suggest you come with me."
Lorcan has been following a lead as she's bumbled around the forest. So he's like, I guess she is involved. Despite that scent she has thanks to the word key. And he knows that she didn't summon whatever is tracking them because he can sense her fear as well as her cinnamon and elderberry scent.
Respectfully, I was like, "Doesn't smell like shit? Nothing at all?" Because
I
like,
know
she smells that good?
yeah, no.
Wow. Lorcan has also taken note of her delicate, fully curved frame.
I mean, if I shit myself as much as she has eating those berries and I got that many steps in, I better look fucking skinny. I
If you
better
s
look
I
good.
was gonna say, if you still think I look good after that, thank you so much. As another pack of whatever is following them herds them from the opposite direction, a lead tells Lorcan to go east to avoid the mountains where wyverns patrol. When one of the creatures screeches, a lead bolts.
She's just gone because she's like me when I try to end I don't know why. Ending a phone conversation is so awkward for no reason. Like I'm incapable of saying the word bye like
Yeah,
a normal person. I'm like bye,
I know.
bye,
I know.
or
Well,
bye.
it always like becomes like, okay, well, I guess we'll catch up soon. Okay, well, I'll talk. Okay, okay, thanks. Like
Yeah,
it's hard to just like sign off. Lorcan considers using the word key to fight.
bless his heart. He's,
You know, the one that
you're just wearing a necklace, Lorcan.
the one that he thinks he has around his neck. Instead, he throws a net of his dark power behind them and feels 4 massive creatures collide with it. Then the invisible wall snaps, not cracks, snaps.
And he's thinking, not even Rowan Rutting Whitethorn can get through my shields.
Excuse me? Lorcan isn't like other girls. His magic isn't like Rowan or Dorian or that bitch queen.
Not even Maeve truly understands the gift Lorcan received from Hellas himself. It's the power of death, which has always reminded me of the way Reese can like turn people to mist, or even maybe Az, because there's that moment where Lorcan, it takes him 2 hours to get the Yellow Legs witch to sing to him. And I was like,
Oh.
sing
But even
with
then,
shadows?
a power of death, how does that become a wall or a shield? Like, it's just interesting the way he's able to use whatever it is.
Well, is it possible that Hellas is Lorcan's father?
Ooh.
And
I
I've
mean,
even thought about Maeve being his mother because she straight up laughs in his face at the idea of fucking him.
oh no.
And like, he's tall. I can't think of his other physical attributes right now, but he's tall.
Well, he's got dark hair. So
Yeah,
does she.
he's tall and dark hair and powerful. Like, why wouldn't you fuck him unless it's your son?
I don't know. Lorcan tells a lead to keep running while he hangs back.
And she doesn't even look back. She's like, you do not have to tell me twice. Good luck.
For the first time in a long time, Lorcan has no words for what he sees. An 8-foot tall creature with 5 fingers and massive claws, skin mottled blue, so dark that it's almost black, with smashed in bat-like noses and double rows of needle-like teeth.
You almost got me with the 8 foot tall and blue skin because I'm re-listening to Ice Planet Barbarians.
Of course you
I'm
are.
like, wait a minute, what? But this is the big reveal that we've been building up to since Aelin found that creature under the castle in Crown of Midnight. This is what Erewhon was creating in Morath, what he's been turning humans with magic and their bloodlines into, the Ilkin.
Ugh.
And it sounds a little like the description sounds a little like the Ator.
Yeah, because they were described kind of like bat-like.
Yeah, Feyre says that it's like long-limbed flying creatures, gray-skinned, serpentine snouts, whatever that means, because I didn't think serpentines had snouts, but razor-sharp teeth. And then there's this quote, as the legion of its ilk punched through Cassian's shield as if it were a cobweb, I beheld on their spindly gray arms gauntlets of the bluish stone I'd seen on Reese glimmering in the sun. So we use the word ilk. That seems intentional. But then also they busted through Cassian's shields, which also sounds like these guys.
Yeah. 4 against 1 wouldn't normally be an issue for Lorcan, but
He is like nothing, like he is very
confident.
confident. Yes, that's right. He does not lack confidence.
He is not worried about this. But he also has Athral's ring, and he thinks that he has a word key.
He's like, I'm carrying the tools that could destroy the world right now. I have to live.
Really important things that he can't let Erewhon have.
He manages to hit 1 with an axe and 2 with knives, but they don't stay down.
Ugh.
As they're reviving, the leader tells Lorcan they've been sent after someone, and Lorcan assumes that it's him, but he's actually just gotten in the way of their real target.
Lorcan, why would they know about you? You killed a couple of yellow legs. So what?
He is very he has main character syndrome. They
clearly,
must be after me.
He's carrying some very important things like a word
They want
key.
my necklace.
They're here for a lead. If Lorcan helps them, their Dark Lord will fill him with power far greater than your weak-ass shields.
And Lorcan wonders if this is the deal the humans that these things once were. Is this the deal that they made? Was it like for the dark power? But like we saw with the guy that was experimented on beneath the castle in Rifthold, it doesn't seem like they were always given a choice, or at least they didn't read the terms and conditions before hitting accept. I don't know if they knew what they were getting themselves into. Because I too, if someone was like, hey, you can be really powerful, I'd be like, okay. Kind of like we're talking about crossbreed series.
Yeah.
When a guy in a bar was like, I can turn you into a vampire. And she's like, that sounds great.
I'm in.
I'm in.
Yeah, that's, again, if they even had a choice in this. Lorcan feels an invisible hand touch his shoulder, a touch that he's trusted his entire life. A touch on his back means to fight and kill. A touch on his shoulder means to run.
Meanwhile, one of the Ilken is caught up with the lead who's like, WWMD, what would Manon do? She doesn't have claws or fangs, but what a lead does have is audacity. Do you think the Dark Lord will be pleased if you harm me? I was sent to find the girl. And she's convincing enough that the guy's questioning himself of like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it really helps that she's dressed like a witch, thanks to Manon. And she has that off scent because she's kind of calling on the word key for strength.
The word key's kind of backing her up like, yeah, girl.
Yeah. So there, yeah.
And it is working until she brings up her ankle because she is assuming that they're thinking about her ankle and wondering why she's limping, like their target limps. But all she actually does is bring attention to her ankle. But then she doubles down like, fuck off before I have to reveal what this dark majesty put inside me. And the stone's like, yeah, fuck off. And it works. And she makes it about half a mile before she falls to her knees and vomits. There is just like so much bodily fluid because there's no toothbrush or toothpaste.
I mean, it's just, I guess the anxiety of everything, and she made it out. That's where Lorcan, covered in black blood, catches up to her like, great, this is when you find me? He puts his sword to Elid's throat and demands to know what her fucking deal is.
She slides the word key into a pocket and offers part of the truth. I spent the last several months in Morath. That's why I have a strange scent. I escaped and now they're hunting me. Parts of that are true.
Yep. That's the best kind of lies, to have some truths mixed in. After scratching her arm and seeing her blood
Which is
red.
kind of sweet that he didn't like cut her. He just like barely did a scratch.
Yeah, he didn't just stab her just to find out.
What a gentleman.
Lorcan throws Elid over his shoulder and runs.
And just like Manon and Morath, I'd be like, y'all think I'm skinny? Like people keep just picking me up. Because I don't want to brag. At Magic Mike, I did get picked to go on stage.
Oh, she did.
And I mean, he was like throwing me around.
It was sexy to watch.
I've never felt so dainty.
I mean, it's a great feeling. Once they're far enough away from the creatures, he sets Elid down and asks her name.
And she gives her mother's name, Marion, the woman who sacrificed herself so Aelin could escape 10 years ago.
Elid sits down and takes off her boot, and Lorcan realizes it wasn't an injury causing her limp.
He's like, oh.
Or at least not a new injury. He sees the mess of scar tissue and twisted bone, and right above her ankle is the still healing wounds where shackles had been.
Lorcan tosses her some Neosporin straight from Doranel in exchange for information. She tells him about the Iron Teeth. She actually tells him a lot.
Yeah.
She tells him about the Iron Teeth, the Wing Leader in the 13, the armies around Morath, the forges and blacksmiths, and her escape. For that, she says she doesn't know how or why the keep exploded, just that when it did, she used that chaos as her chance to grab some witch clothes and run.
I mean, as you say that, with how much she told him, you don't know that Lorcan isn't also affiliated with Morath.
Right.
Just because these creatures didn't recognize him doesn't mean that he's on your side. And she's like, here's all the things I've learned, spilling some tea. In those weeks of running, she's only covered half of the distance
Oh
to
my
Terracin.
God.
To be fair, how far is Terracin?
Well, Aelin made it from Rifthold to Terracin already, and she's already like on her way to Skull's Bay. So it does seem like Elite if she were going in one direction.
Right, but Aelin also was able to get food from inns and like get normal food and can read a map. So like
she can read.
Elite is just out there in the woods. Like, am I pointing north? Like, it's kind of impressive, but also I'm like, is it bad? You only got halfway.
Well, it's like she doesn't have a map and she can't find the Lord of the North. So I guess she would normally look to that. But I don't understand how people read the stars of like, if I look up and I see something, how is that telling me where to go?
Yeah, like just because I see one star, like which side of the star am I standing on? Like even if that's north, like am I looking at it correctly?
Whenever we're going somewhere and like I have the directions on my phone, I'll be like, okay, in half a mile we're gonna turn. And I mean 5 seconds later, this red light, and I'm like, does it feel like it's been half a mile yet?
Yes.
You
it's always been so long.
Times.
I just want to be sure.
Is this it?
I need landmarks, okay? And that's in a city with like street lights and like street signs.
Is just like there's not. I don't even know if there's trails, but she can't be on them because they're looking for her.
No, like she is way out in the wild, so I doubt there's even trails. Like,
oh my God, I can't believe I forgot to mention this, but just thinking about like the woods made me think of Twilight.
Okay,
the guy who played Carlisle, like reposted one of our graphics that we put on Instagram.
Yeah.
So, and he's always been my favorite because when you're older, when you rewatch Twilight and you're not Team Edward or Team Jacob, you're Team Carlisle or Team Charlie.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at in life.
I know, but the fact that you posted that about is it Vampire Weekend?
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that he reshared it, like, thank you so much.
We're going to meet all of them.
We're going to do our best.
We're going to a vampire fan convention. Because, like, I bet having kids is, like, very fulfilling. I have money that I can spend on dumb shit. And this is one of those things that I'm like, fuck yeah, adult money.
I mean, it's just, oh God, we love Vampire Diaries, but they also will have people from Twilight.
Yeah, it's
and
like
the originals. Like, it's going to be so much fun.
I
it's
love the
originals.
Nashville. I almost like the first season of Originals is better than Vampire Diaries.
It's
because I think that Klaus should have ended up with Caroline. I will stand by that until the day I die.
Okay. I mean, the Originals is fun because they're like more adult. Like,
and
Vampire Diaries definitely starts high school. So like it's a different vibe in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, I love both. I watched both shows. I can't wait.
I don't know how I got on that tangent. Woods.
They're in the woods. Well, Elide is telling Lorcan that she's trying to get to Terracin where she needs to find Selena Sardathian.
Lorcan's like, never came across my desk.
And Aelin Galathinius.
He asks why she would be looking for Aelin, and Elide tells him she plans to offer her help. And he again asks her why. Like, what could you possibly offer Aelin?
Oh.
And she tells him, I'm from Terracin. My queen is alive and fighting, so I'm going to fight with her. So that no other girls will be taken from their homes and brought to places like Morath and forgotten. And Lorcan is very like transactional of, okay, we're going the same way. This is what we're going to do. But I think that also kind of touched him. You know? I think has like respect.
Yeah, that she's going to try regardless. But it's as he's sitting here thinking, you're one girl, what could you do? She's also thinking, you're one male. What could you do in Morath?
But for now, their paths are leading them in the same direction.
Oh,
so that if they said bye now, they would have so many awkward, like, oh, hey. And then they'd have to say bye again.
Also, I think that she's going to kind of need his help. So, like, yeah, don't leave me just yet. They're about a day's hike from the Avery River. They're going to head toward the Acanthus River, where there are merchants, caravans, and seasonal carnivals that are crossing. They'll get in with one of them, hide, and once they've crossed and traveled far enough into the grasslands, Elide will head north to Terracin and Lorcan south to Morath.
Basically, you tell me everything you know about Morath, and I will keep you from being murdered or eating berries that make you bottom vomit.
Thank you so much.
Or mouth vomit.
They'll be searching for Marion on
Every
main
time
roads.
he thinks it makes me laugh when he's like, this Marion.
Come on, Marion. They'll be searching for Marion on the main roads, Lorcan too if the witches are still looking, but she has an idea.
Let's strip down to our undershorts and travel to Antica, where Kale and Nezrin have just been brought before the Coggin, which we said, I knew we were saying it wrong last week. I just didn't know how wrong. We said Kagan, Coggin, but he is sitting in his solid gold. It's a gold throne, but it's funny that it's mentioned that it had to be bigger because one of the Coggins was so fat. I was like, what an interesting little tidbit to put in there.
Nice.
I wonder if that's, I meant to look up if that is inspired by anyone that was like a real, like, didn't we have a president?
President Taft got stuck in the bathtub.
I was just thinking that.
It's just like,
that's all I know about him. Can you imagine being a president and all anyone knows is that you got stuck?
This
Are you
is what you're going down for?
I'm also surprised. So, first of all, thank you so much for reviews. We got some messages that were like, oh, I'm reading Tower of Dawn for the first time.
Wow.
Like the amount of people who have read Throne of Glass multiple times, but have also skipped Tower of Dawn. Like, I get it. It's slow compared to what's going on in Empire of Storms. And at the end of Empire of Storms, you're like, no, I can't read an entire book without any of those people. And there's a lot of world building and character introductions. Like, Tower of Dawn is not book one in the series, but it has first book vibes.
Yeah.
Because we're like relearning an entire culture and we're meeting all these people. And usually, like, you get that out of the way in the beginning of a series. You don't have to do that anymore.
Well, that and with the, not spoilers, but like end of Empire of Storms, like this is not what I want to read about right now. And then I have to try to retain all of this. I'm really enjoying doing the tandem because I've never done it either.
Well, you go into this and the only character you really know is Kael. Like, Nezrin hadn't been developed. We know her. And we didn't spend much time with Irene and Assassin's Blade. It was just one of the stories. So it can kind of feel like you're going 100 miles per hour in Empire of Storms and you're slamming on the brakes for Tower of Dawn. But it is important to the overall story and for Kael's arc.
Well, I honestly think I'm getting a lot more out of it than the last time I read it as well.
Well, that's because you're reading with me.
I mean, obviously, yes, we're sitting and talking about it, which really helps. But even just like getting to break up the sections that I'm reading, I'm retaining more of it because it's not so much new information all at once. You know, like you get little bits and then you go back to Empire of Storms and the characters you know, and then it's nice to have that break.
I honestly used to call it Tower of Yawn, and
Oh,
I know it's so stupid, but I regret it.
What a burn. Look at you. We've talked a lot about what Kael's dealing with, both internally and externally, but we get a lot more character development for Nezrin in this book.
Well, what I love about Nezrin is she is the closest we have to a normal girl. No magic, no witch blood. She's just a hard worker. Nezrin is smart. She's mature. She's loyal and strong. But she's strong in a more silent way than we usually see in SJM female characters. We could have met, like, Nezrin could have met Aelin and hated her because of the chaos of it all. But she doesn't make snap judgment. Like, she's not emotional or impulsive. Nezrin is just very steady.
She's not even like bitchy or petty. Like even when Aelin's having her like sassy moments, Nezrin's like, all right, cool. You can't ruffle my feathers.
She's very neutral, and her story is probably the most relatable or like realistic. Her father's from the southern continent. She is starstruck looking up the Coggin and his family. And she feels at home here with people who look like her, but she grew up in Otterland. Like, she is the captain of Dorian's royal guard. So she has these two, like almost two people, two identities inside of her that are kind of warring with each other.
Yeah, it would be very hard if you felt at home in two places for different reasons, even like where does
it's like she feels at home in two places, but also doesn't feel at home anywhere. If that makes sense. Like, if you can't choose, and I just think the more that I read this series, like reread the series, I do find like more space for like Nezrin's story or Chaos story.
Yeah, because again, we're hearing different stories. Like, it's not the same story with a different name on it. You know, it's so it makes it interesting. And again, like you said, relatable. Nezrin and her family were harassed in Otterland, called slurs, and kids literally threw rocks at them. So it's like she has a moment of, why am I even fighting for those people? Especially now that I'm here and I feel like a real connection to this place. Are the people in Otterland my people? Or are these my people?
Yeah, her arc may seem, I don't know, maybe a little more boring or slower because so much of this series is fast paced and it's like exciting and a lot going on. But I appreciated Nezrin's journey more in this reread.
Yeah.
Like the nuances. It's more like Nezrin is a subtle character. You're not going to get it big, explosive displays of anything.
I like that though, because I have a habit of just like word vomiting all my feelings. Like I cannot, if I'm an anxious
Oh,
person.
I'm thinking about last night.
Oh no.
There was a point where you looked over and you go, "What's the name of the brand of stuff that's at Walmart?" And I was like, "Great Value." And you didn't have to finish that you were thinking that this is the Great Value brand of strippers.
I know, like, I'm sorry. I feel bad for saying that, but I was just like, this is not what I was expecting. But like, I'm very vocal. Like all these characters that like keep things to themselves, like even Aelin keeping her plans to herself. I'm immediately like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. What if we do this? Like I think through things out loud.
Mhm.
So I appreciate seeing Nezrin and the way that she handles things and works through them. Not that you can't reach out to family, but it's a different perspective that I'm not as familiar with because I'm not good at just like keeping my own problems to myself.
Mhm.
She works through things herself. She also keeps a level head. Like,
She's very level-headed.
yeah, like if she needs to feel bad about something, she does, but she doesn't take it to the next level with acting out or being petty or like,
Yeah, she hasn't like when everyone Kale and Aelin are going through all of their dramatics. She's just kind of like, we can hook up or we can not hook up. I don't give a shit.
but even like when she and Kale had their first go around, like Kale thinks back on it and he's like, she never even like got mad at me for the way that like I came to her or like
Mhm.
the way that we handled things. She was just like, okay,
Yeah.
she like processes it herself. And I appreciate that we have a character like this to get her perspective. Also, like you said, Nezrin is starstruck looking at the Coggin as much of a deity as the 36 gods that they worship.
Almost as many temples as there are churches in my hometown. And I know I'm going to like fuck this all the way up, but on the mystical side of Judaism, there are what translates to the hidden righteous ones. And it's 36 righteous people whose role in life is to justify the purpose of humanity in the eyes of God, which kind of connects us back to Solomare, and that's the city that Rowan and Lorcan destroyed. We talked about that being inspired by Sodom and Gomorrah. And so in that story, God tells Abraham that he will spare the city if they can find 10 righteous men. So for these 36 people, God is preserving the world even if the rest of humanity sucks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I also looked into religion in the Mongol Empire, since we know that that inspired the Southern Continent and the Dothraki in A Song of Ice and Fire. And because they took over so many places with all these different beliefs, Genghis Khan set up an institution. It was basically religious freedom. So it was like very similar vibes to the Southern
Yeah.
Continent. And I know that everyone says Genghis differently. There's like other ways to say it.
The Coggin Urus speaks to Kale and Nezrin in their language instead of Hala, the indigenous language of the southern continent.
It's interesting Nezrin is thinking that Dorian is the opposite of the Coggin, but Aelin has more in common with him than she does with Dorian. Like what is it about this guy that she sees Aelin in him in this moment? Is it because he's like flashy or like
I
on
think
his
it
golden throne? That he's stronger,
I feel like he is very perceptive and
confident?
kind of sees everything. Yeah, it's a confidence and it also is like a bit of a mask because Dorian kind of just his feelings are out there. Like I don't feel like because I can't put my words together. I don't feel like Dorian really wears a mask, but Aelin absolutely does. You see different
Yeah.
facades with her all the time. And the Coggin, I mean, it's not just the glamour and the strength that he portrays. It's the way that he really seems to see everybody. He's paying attention to all the
Mhm.
details and the different things that are happening. Like you can tell he was once a warrior,
Yeah.
but also he's got a mask that's very
He has
much
like different facets to him.
yeah. You don't fully know him. You see his Coggin mask right now. This is the face he's showing everybody.
Well, and he welcomes Nezrin to her true home, and that triggers Kaol.
Ooh, or was it Nezrin and not him being called captain that triggered him? We should also go ahead and break down the Coggins' children.
Because
Sark
there are a lot, and they all have very pretty, very interestingly spelled names.
yes, and I'm going to do my best to say these correctly. I literally just listened to the Audible, but I will probably have a moment where I say it wrong
Oh, I'm
anyway.
gonna say Coggin wrong because like my brain, I can think the way that it's pronounced, and then I can't control what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah, my my brain and my mouth aren't always well connected. Sartak is second born, and he's commander of the Rukin, the aerial cavalry.
And they're basically giant birds, like I picture the eagles from Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not as big as the wyverns, but they are fast and clever. And Sartak's rook is named Kadara, and they have a cute little relationship.
Yeah.
Hassar, bless her heart, is no beauty. That's pointed out several times. Don't know why we need to put that in there. And she is the third child of the Kagan and the Grand Empress, who is nowhere to be seen, BTW. There are like little red flags that Nezrin is starting to notice.
Yeah, they definitely noticed the white sashes everywhere when they came in, and now we're getting a few more hints to pay attention to. Caution is the commander of the armies on land, the foot soldiers, and the horse lords.
And he's more soldier than royal or politician. And he's the prettiest.
Ooh.
And I could totally be a horse girl for him.
His brother Argan, the oldest of Urus's children, is the politician.
And he's the one with spies everywhere, and he's the reason why his father knows about the attack on Rifthold.
Lastly, we have Duva, who looks to be 6 months pregnant and is wearing a giant sapphire ring. And the youngest, Tumaloon, is also MIA.
And you're like, oh, yay, a baby. I mean, everyone's so happy. But the first task of a new ruler in this kingdom, after they have kids of their own, they kill all potential challengers, starting with the offspring of your siblings. It's just wild because not all of the siblings are close or like good people, but they do seem to be close. It's wild to think that one day they would have to try to kill each other.
Yeah, you're still family, and it's pretty brutal. For example, when Urus's mother was dying, she ordered 2 of her sons to fight to the death.
That just seemed unnecessary. Like, that was just for the spectacle. I think they said that she was like the dramatic one.
Well, because she has to have it written somewhere who
Yeah.
her choice is
Was
going
this
to be.
necessary?
So, like, thanks. They fought in an amphitheater for 6 hours, dodging shit like iron spiked chariots and lions. So it's literally like gladiators.
Yes, exactly.
It's not even just like which of us is strongest. It's like you said, it's a whole spectacle. When his brother was injured, Urus extended a hand to help him, and his brother sent a hidden dagger for his heart.
Which kind of shows a little bit about who he is
Yeah,
deep down. Like he
character.
that he had that moment where he was going to help.
Yeah, and
someone that was technically in that moment his enemy.
It says a lot about his brother that he was like,
It does.
I'll still take my chance. He missed by 2 inches, and Urus ripped the dagger free and plunged it into his brother.
He then executed 2 of his siblings. One sibling went into exile, and the other 2 had the healers make them infertile.
Jeez.
It's just like very heavy.
Considering that their nation seems to be at peace, like,
yeah,
that's
they seem
very
so progressive in some ways.
It's very violent.
Yeah.
Kael motioned servants forward with gifts from Dorian and Aelin.
This is not the thing to do.
Just Aelin, because Queen Georgina secured her bag before she fled to the mountain estates. And I'm assuming the rest of the money went to Morath. But Aelin had 2 trunks full of jewelry fit for a queen of assassins.
Yeah, thanks to Argan spies, the Kagan is well aware that Aelin Galathinius is Selena Sardothian.
Like, how is this getting out there?
I don't know. How is information traveling so quickly? Like, there is information that hasn't even gotten to like Morath or Terrasen yet, and they know in the southern continent when it just took 3 weeks to get there by boat. Are we assuming that these giant bird things are flying back and forth? Like, how the fuck would they know about the attack on Rifthold when it happened after Kael and Nezrin left and they just got here? How
do they know?
It's not like they don't have phones. They can't communicate telepathically or anything. It's just I don't understand.
Maybe if nothing else, maybe they have merchant ships that are much faster than whatever like big cargo ship Nezrin
they would
and Kael
have to be
rode?
moving very quickly.
I don't know. It's
But
wild.
He also seems more butthurt that they brought jewels for him, but Duva never received a wedding gift, and it's pointed out every other ruler sent theirs half a year ago. So it's a little, not foreshadowing, but more little breadcrumbs of like a lot of jewelry was sent to Duva from other, well, not royals, but yeah, other countries.
He did, yeah, he said other rulers
kingdoms.
though. But it's not an excuse, but it's very clear that Otterlin cared only about Otterlin.
Yes.
So, like, I don't know if other information was even coming in.
Well,
that would even
Otterlin
occur
is
to them to ask about
very
other countries.
America. Like, that's what that is.
Yeah.
We don't know any other languages. We just go other places and we're like, bonjour. And we just start, like, I try, but then I just start speaking in English.
I mean, at least you tried.
I tried.
It doesn't help that not only does Aylin's resume just have one word in Comic Sans, murder, but
Murder.
fake news has also spread that she shattered the glass castle, murdered the king, and seized the capital. None of which is true, but Kael's like, I knew Aelin would ruin this.
The Coggin cuts the bullshit and gets to the point. You are here to convince me to join your war. Otterlin is basically having a civil war. Terrasen is even worse off. So you're here to convince me to spill our blood on a lost cause. What he sees as a lost cause.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a different border. Like, my borders are secure. What am I going to risk it for? Some might consider it a noble cause.
Kael is right, but on the surface, without knowing about the Vogue, it does seem like some shit I wouldn't want to get involved with either. You know? Like, I'd be like, why would we get involved with any of this? Because if you just think that it's a civil war,
Well,
you don't know there's an ancient race of demons.
Even knowing about the Vogue, if you haven't had to experience it, you could probably downplay how dangerous they are too and be like, that seems like your problem.
Argon and Hassar, our team, mind our own business, or maybe even take Parrington's side. That could be the more profitable side. But Sartak, Cashin, and Duva, our team, stay the fuck away from Parrington. Because I don't know if there's like vibes that they're getting from Parrington that they don't know they don't know that he's Vogue, but they know that like something is going on.
He's clearly been asserting himself for a while, so they know he's got some power.
They think that once he conquers that continent, he might turn his eye to this continent, which is smart. Of course he's going to. And that helping free kingdoms like Eoway and Finharo will benefit them financially down the road. So they're like, short term, it makes more sense to be on that side, but long term, you're not thinking about like this he's already conquered one continent. You think he's just going to stop?
But also he has most of your army, so like why would it seems like the losing side? Why would we risk everything for that? It seems pretty clear which side the Coggin is leading toward, but he says he'll consider the offer while Kael receives treatment at the Torre Sesme.
And he takes another dig at Aelin, like, wow, she didn't protect her allies very well if you're here in this chair. And I guess you're not in Doranel getting help, also thanks to Aelin. Like, bitch, the only reason that Kael is in a chair and not a body bag is because Aelin slipped the Eye of Elena into his cargo shorts. And then Rowan's wind is what saved him from the castle. Like, I get so heated when Kael doesn't take up for Aelin. Like, how many times does she have to save your life to save all of these lives before people start sticking up for her? Like, the redemption arc is chasing Kael, but he's rolling away too fast. It pisses me off. And I know that there's, in this moment, it's not really like the time and place to get into an argument with the guy, with the Coggin, but it just pisses me off.
It really, I think Kael's in a place right now that they don't really care what he has to say. So I don't know if he could really have a good answer to like,
I don't know if he would, even if it were the time and place to have this argument. I don't know if he would.
I think that if he had time to prepare, he would, because like he and Aelin kind of buried the hatchet before everything went down. But I think that he's just not prepared with an answer. He didn't really know that it was going to go this way.
But he's also thinking, I knew Aelin would ruin this.
That's not wrong. Yeah. It's, I mean, bad PR is out there to have to fight back against. It's also interesting the Torre seems to operate separately from the Coggin.
It's kind of like the Vatican. Like, it's in Italy, but not in Italy. Like, the tower seems to be its own entity, and it is the domain of the goddess Silba, who we heard about in The Assassin and the Healer.
I respect how much and how important the healing arts are to them. There's just a lot of respect. It's
such a contrast to how magic wielders have been treated in Otterlin.
Mm-hmm. This is if the healers agree to help Kael, one will be sent to the castle tomorrow.
The Coggin dismisses them and their blood diamonds, and Kael asks why. Really, like when Kael says why, it's always a period and not a question mark. He's demanding to know, and that makes Nezrin cringe. But then when she looks at the eyes of the Coggin, she catches a flicker of something in his eyes, and that's when she puts it together. The white banners, death banners, the 5, not 6 potential heirs in front of them.
Tumalun, the youngest of Urus's children, died unexpectedly, according to Sartak.
And Nezrin is really cringing now because they just showed up with blood diamonds asking for help. And there were all, like, this is a different culture. Like, there are words and rituals that they just passed over. Like, it's just very tacky. Like, on
Mhm.
top of everything else, there's just tacky. And Nezrin tries to recover, offering some culturally appropriate condolences, versus Kale's like, pour one out for your homies, I guess. Sorry. And Sartak is the only one who nods his thanks to Nezrin. It's kind of like, oh, what are we?
Hello.
They start like, there are more breadcrumbs with them.
Kale blames being at sea for the last 3 weeks,
And he's
which
not wrong. Like, how would they have known any of this?
yeah, they have not been getting proper news for a while now, and it's clear. They haven't concerned themselves with other countries for a while now. Kale blames, again, being at sea, which the Coggin says would explain why they aren't aware that Rifthold has been sacked by the witches.
And they don't know where King Dorian is, only that he fled the city. And you know how triggered Kale is by the word fled.
Yeah, Kale's mind goes to Dorian, but Nezrin's goes to her family. Her father, her sister, her nieces. Dorian just left them. Did anyone fight for them? Are they even alive?
I mean, if I were Nezrin, I would be thinking, I left my post, I left my family to go to the other side of the world for Otterlin. Like, I'm here for Dorian, and he just left everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I like, we know that there's more layers to it than that, but I understand being a little angry.
Sure.
And the way that the Coggin delivered the news was unnecessarily cruel. And that fuck Argan is just looking amused.
Like, I mean, not that the Coggin owes them anything, but they were really belated on their condolences. So he's having his own moment to kind of give a little dig back.
Yeah.
Kale and Nezrin are taken to their first floor suite.
Which
And
is really,
it was considerate.
it is
Considering
considerate.
Kale's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And Nezrin goes straight to her room and shuts the door. A servant tells Kale as best she can in his language that she'll start a bath. Not that Kale can judge. He's barely fluent in any other languages within his own continent.
Is this fucking play about us?
Yep.
This is America.
Prince
Cashin?
Shoot, did I say Cashin?
I think
Sorry,
it's
guys,
Cashin.
I already forgot.
Just
Prince
start over.
Cashin.
I'm gonna have to take out all the sorry guys.
I know. Prince Cashin walks into the suite, like, get a load of this guy.
I'm trying. And Kale's first thought is always when he looks at people, especially warriors or guards, he sees his shortcomings, like his own insecurities in others. He's looking at this guy like, oh, he's just walking around with his legs like I used to, because he still only sees his strength, what he has to offer as external. So in his mind, he doesn't really have anything to offer because he didn't grow up like Dorian. He wasn't raised to be a courtier. He's not, he just has imposter syndrome.
That was a deep cut. That was good.
Was it?
Yeah,
Thanks.
smart. Sorry, that's on me too.
I'm so smart.
It was a great comment. Cashin is there officially to invite Kale and Nezrin to dinner with the royal family every night while they're guests.
That's a lot of dinners. I'd be like, I only packed one tunic. Unofficially, even though Argan reports their palace is safe from Parrington spies, Cashin and Sartak aren't convinced that Parrington hasn't infiltrated Antica and that their sister killed herself.
Ooh, they say Tumlin leapt from the balcony due to what sounds like depression or bipolar disorder.
Yeah, they talk about her mood swings.
And Duva and her husband found her later that night, but Cashin doesn't believe it.
And when Cashin implies like Aelin could have been behind it, Kaol finally takes up for her. And even when she was an assassin, Aelin had a very hard line of not killing or harming children. And Cashin believes him, which leaves Parrington at the top of his list of suspects. Although he has no idea what the motive could be for killing his sister, like not just for Parrington, but for anyone.
Cashin says Tumlin rode with him against the Dargon, their mother's clans, and did not have a soul day of her own yet.
And the soul day is a spear all of the Dargon warriors carry. They bind strands of their horse's hair to the shaft. I don't know. We need to carry on. I'm an adult. To the shaft. And their ancestors believed that where those hairs waved in the wind, that's where their destinies waited. And in death, that is the only object that they keep. It's very...
What does that remind me of, where they burn all of the objects in death? It's
It's
another book.
Quicksilver? No, Fourth Wing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they had to try to save their mother's journal.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, that just like took me for a second as we were saying that.
Well, can I go on a side tangent?
Of course.
I was listening to a podcast about it was in the Vietnam War. I don't even know if you can call it a war, whatever you call what happened in Vietnam. And they made this track that sounded like ghost, and they would play it. It's called like Operation Wandering Soul,
Okay.
and they would play it because they were so scared of, like, if you don't do the right rituals and bury people where they're supposed to be buried, that the souls will come back. So the American soldiers would play this track that they had come up with that makes it sound like the dead rising and scare the shit out of the Vietnamese. Isn't that crazy? And it worked. Like, they thought that,
They're playing on their
well, in the
cultural.
not only was it like ghost sounds, but it was
Yeah.
also like dad, like it had like some words in there that were like trying to, you need to get out of here. You need to get back to your family before you're stuck with us too.
Yeah, to warn them off.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, Operation Wandering Soul. And I listened to the tape itself.
Yikes. I don't know if I could hear that. That sounds like it'd be
It's
really sad,
creepy. It's because
actually.
it's kind of like a haunted house
Uh-huh.
vibes.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought of that. I guess culture,
Yeah.
of which I have none.
But back to Cashin's suspicions, he's convinced his father to have Kale and Nezrin join them for dinner every night so he can get an outsider's perspective. Maybe Kale will see something that Cashin missed.
And on Kale's side, if he could convince the Coggin that Parrington was behind the murder of his beloved daughter, he could easily convince him to join their side in the war. But Kale seems to think that Erewhon is way too smart to have been involved in this, and he doesn't see any black rings or collars, but he hasn't really been looking. But he hadn't even considered the shadow of Morath could have extended this far.
Always planning ahead. After, after Cashin leaves, the servant emerges in a sheer silk robe.
And I know the whole thing in the Southern continent is none of these servants are slaves. Like, they're not being forced to do anything. They're well paid. But it's weird. Like, even at like the jobs at the palace are very coveted. And so you don't want to lose your job. So is it you can say no? Would you keep your job if you kept saying no to people?
I mean,
It's just very
but
weird.
would you have applied for this job?
Well, it's like it's past family member to family member.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. That does make
It's
it
just
kind of gross.
weird.
I mean, but like if you grew up with this expectation, maybe you don't think anything of it. I don't know.
Well, and this wouldn't have been Kale's thing under normal circumstances, but now he's especially sensitive to feeling like people are pitying him or like pity fucking him. So he's like, no, thank you. In bigger picture, Kale thinks needing help or support makes you weak, and he doesn't want to be dependent or vulnerable. And he's struggling with not being the soldier that he once was. And we've talked about how much Kale's identity was tied to what he was physically capable of. All of his validation was external. So when you take that away, when you take his ability to protect others away, like, what are you left with? Kale's healing journey in this book is much more than just physical. Like, he has a lot of internal wounds that he's been ignoring that he's now going to have to face. And I know all this because I took a psych class in college. And if Katy Perry can be an astronaut after like 11 minutes in space, I can be a psychologist after one class.
Hear, hear. Kale can't even bring himself to touch Nezrin because he wouldn't be able to take her like he used to. Like, he's not even open to other options.
I know, because Nezrin is like, there are a couple times where she's like, let's see if this completion is still an option. And he's just like not feeling it. The servant takes it in stride, though, and she pushes him into the bathing chamber where she helps remove his clothes, except for his undershorts.
Now that I know there was that bonus chapter, I have more context for this comment about the ill-fated bout between him and Nezrin on the way over.
You don't have to know it, but it helps.
Mm-hmm.
And using the process that he figured out on the ship, Kale locks the wheels, removes his feet from the plates, and with his right hand, he grips the edge of the seat and he curls his left hand into a fist that he braces on the floor. And the servant lays a towel. Like, the servant is very like, all right, you don't need my help. Like, she's just kind of anticipating his needs.
Mm-hmm.
And he lowers himself to the ground. He lands with a thud, and then he scoots to the edge of the pool stairs, which all of this would take so much core strength and like so much upper body strength.
I mean, I have no upper body strength, so it sounds very impressive, but I'm sure it's exhausting just to get these few maneuvers done. The servant walks out into the water and grips him under the arms to help pull him into the pool. She then guides him down the steps until he's face to face Face to nipple.
He's like, I don't know where to look right now. Kale at last slides his undershorts off and sets them down with a wet smack.
And that's where we'll pick up next week with Empire of Storms, chapters 11 through 13, and Tower of Dawn, chapters 4 through 7.
Where we will be reunited with a couple of characters from Assassin's Blade, one of whom will be our third POV in Tower of Dawn. And thank you guys so much for the ratings and reviews. I know it's a chore, and we're always asking for it. And we had like 2 new reviews this week.
Yay!
Not to brag. But then I was like, have I actually written a review? And I did. I've written 1 review in my life. Do you remember that army guy I was dating? And I mean, I broke it off. He was a psycho. But he started dating, like, he had the audacity to continue living after we broke up.
Ugh.
And so he started dating this dentist. And at like 2 a.m. one night, I left a Yelp review that was like, all my teeth fell out. So if I somehow find my Yelp account, that is the one review I wrote.
Love that. Thank you, guys.